Namaste viewers. Today we are going to talk about a very close subject of every Bharatiya, that is Sanatana Dharma. And the identity of Sanatana Dharma is nothing but Ved and Vedanga. And I need not give too much of explanation or history about it. We have a expert with us today. She is from originally from Maharashtra, but currently she is serving as a dean professor for Ernakulam College, which is dedicated to Veda Abhyas and Sanatana Dharma, and very respectful Shankaracharya lineage. What is she going to do in this particular stream, and her role and her experience, her journey, and also our limited knowledge about Vedanga and her expert information about that, all that we are going to talk to her. So I would love to, or it's my honor and privilege to welcome Dr. Gauri Mahulikar to Divak program. Namo Nama Acharya. So Swagatam.
Namo Namaha.
Gauri ma'am, first I got to know that you had a very prestigious position in banking, and after retirement, you switch over to academics. So, how did that happen?
I think there is some misunderstanding.
Uh-huh.
Banking I was, but then leaving that after working in Union Bank of India for almost 4 years, I came back to academia.
Right.
When I joined bank, I was already MA. I did my PhD later. So banking service was not a recent thing.
No.
It was way back in 77. 77 to 81, I worked in bank,
No.
and then I left it. Yeah.
Okay. So, as I rightly said, that your experience not only with age but knowledge, because when you said 77, I'm born just few years before that.
I know. I'm born in 53.
Okay. And this is all a real great experience for me. So, PhD in Sanskrit or Veda, ma'am?
Yeah, PhD in Sanskrit in Vedic elements in Puranic mantras and rituals. What happened is I passed my MA with gold medal in 1975, and from 75 to 77, 2 years, I worked with one of my professors, Dr. Sadashiv Ambadas Dange, on his project, UGC project, and I read all the 18 Mahapuranas as a research assistant to him.
Okay.
And his project has been published in 5 fat volumes
Okay.
called Encyclopedia Puranic Beliefs and Practices. And my name is there as the research assistant in the acknowledgement. Okay. After that, I didn't do my PhD. Okay. My PhD I did quite late. I mean, after that service, 75 to 77 as a research associate, I worked in a bank for 4 years. And then because I got married and I was in a family line, I left, I resigned from bank job. I stayed home. I was a complete homemaker. And my entry into academia is what I can say, a covetable coincidence for me. That was destined for me. I never knew it. But it's all grace of God that He wanted me to be here. And thereafter, I did my PhD.
So this is really a wonderful message to all those who think that after wedding or after marriage, life is a full stop. But that's not
After two kids, I did my PhD.
PhD. So no one should think twice before getting into new chapter.
Exactly.
There is always room if
Learning
you have
has
a
no age barrier.
no age barrier, and I think Adi Shankaracharya wanted you to be instrumental in spreading the message. So, as they say, we are nimitta matra, and you got an opportunity.
One small correction, I am not in Ernakulam College, I am in Chinmaya Vishwa Vidyapeeth. It's a de novo university, private university, deemed to be university, and there I am dean of faculty.
Faculty, yeah. So I wanted to ask about that as well, because I do remember I visited the portal of the university, and I got to see many fascinating words there. Veda, Shastra, Purana, Vedanga, Shruti. So I said this is all is become a fashion now, or you can say a inclination of people to understand their origin. And this is the right time to talk to you and get to know more about it. So what is this CVV, ma'am?
CVV Chinmaya Vishwa Vidyapeeth.
Okay.
This is, you can say, this was envisioned by Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda way back in 1989. And he wanted a university here in this campus because this campus houses Shankaracharya's maternal. In
Oh.
fact, according to the local Nambudris here,
Mhm.
Shankaracharya was born not at Kaladi, but here because this is his mother's house. And a
Okay.
child in Indian scenario
Yes,
is
yes,
born, first child especially, is born at the mother's place.
correct.
So
Yeah.
this is his mother's place. The house is well preserved. Okay.
So it's oh wonderful. This is really thrilling.
Yeah.
Yeah, grandparents' place is the place of the child where the child is born. Perfect, correct. Oh, that's wonderful. So, what kind of courses are already planned, and how many students are already academically trained here?
We are a new university. We started functioning in 2017.
Okay.
Recently, on 6th of June, we
Hmm.
had our annual convocation. We combined two batches, 2020 graduates and 2021 graduates. And we gave certificates to 148 students. I mean, we are in our infancy. We
No,
just
it's
completed 4 years and
perfect.
entered the fifth year. And we have different types of programs like we have commerce, we have management, we
Oh,
have psychology, we have law, we have public policy governance in addition to Sanskrit and especially the special programs called Integrated Masters 5 years program
mhm.
in Sanskrit Advaita Vedanta because this is the seat of Vedanta,
True,
Shankaracharya
true,
and
true.
Vyakarana. So
Yeah,
two streams in that.
excellent. I was about to ask that because uh, our civilization was extremely literate and highly qualified way back. In between, we lost the entire sanctity, and now we are again coming back to our origin and our rich heritage and our qualifications. We have heard that the universities called Nalanda and Vikramaditya University, they were the places wherein n number of intellectuals studied, innovated, but somehow suddenly in between the entire charm is lost, the entire sanctity is lost, and again, fortunately, we are back to it once again, and people are inclined towards it. So, uh, is Sanskrit a prerequisite to take the admission in your institute?
Hmm?
Is Sanskrit a prerequisite to take an admission in your institute?
No, not really.
Not really.
It's
Okay.
not a prerequisite, but after coming here, you will learn Sanskrit.
Of course.
You
Yeah.
will learn.
Okay.
It's not a prerequisite. No,
Okay.
not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
That's a good news to everybody who wants
Yeah,
to.
yeah. So,
Correct. Unfortunately, now jokes apart, Sanskrit being our mother tongue, being our original language, somehow we feel that this is something really difficult and tough for me to learn. I'm more interested in learning French, Spanish, German, but I don't want to learn Sanskrit because I find it very challenging. What do you want to say this to the people who are really
these are
scared of?
all misconceptions and they are like rumors. One should not believe in the rumors, right?
Correct.
One should, learning a language is a fun experience. If you are learning Spanish and French and German and Japanese and Chinese as a foreign language, why can't you have the same approach to learn Sanskrit?
Correct.
You learn it as not a foreign language because almost all the regional languages of India have got minimum 50 to 60%
True.
borrowed words from Sanskrit.
Absolutely.
Sanskrit is not new to us.
Yes.
We show that much fervor in learning a new language.
Yeah.
It is our own mindset. Psychologically, there are some blockages, and therefore we don't turn to Sanskrit. But I think every Indian must know Sanskrit. Every Indian must know.
I echo the same. Every Indian should. Because, as you rightly said, every language of Indians, every state, whatever languages we have, has origin from Sanskrit. So,
Exactly.
most of the words are known to us when we try to say it. Maybe as usual the grammar is a problem, but where it is not.
Exactly.
Vyakaran is always a challenge in every language. So is this in Sanskrit. Okay, now I'm talking to you, and I realize that you're making it very easy for people to learn, understand not only language but Veda, Purana, Upanishad also. So now coming back to the main topic, ma'am, I will not say ma'am, I say Acharya. Uh, um, we have heard some names from our Vedic period. Hmm? Um, Gosha, Lopamudra, Maitreyi, Gargi, but very vaguely. We don't know much about them. Whatever we find on Google is our institute, and that's all is our knowledge limited to. And but we still want to claim that we know everything. And I want to get into the details of it today. So, what is mean? What was the difference? Okay, the basic question, Ma. Vedic period and Purana period. What is the basic difference?
Vedic period is the period of the Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda, the
Correct.
Samhita, then the Brahmana literature, Aitareya Brahmana, Shatabda Brahmana. We might have heard the names.
Yes.
Then the Aranyakas and the Upanishads.
Okay.
These are all four categories we can say.
Vedic Kala.
The Samhita or the mantra, then the Brahmana, Aranyaka, and the Upanishad. These four constitute the entire Vedic literature. So Vedic period comprises of the Samhita to Upanishad. So that I call as Vedic period. Okay. And Puranas, they are called Shruti. Vedic period is called Shruti because the knowledge has percolated down the traditions, generations after generations, by oral tradition. And therefore Shruti is that which is heard. Later comes Smriti. From our remembrance, from our memories, we started writing down when writing was known to mankind. And then in the Smritis we have the Itihasas, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata and the Puranas. And even the Dharma Shastra literature, which we call, Manusmriti, Yajnavalkya Smriti, Apastamba Smriti, Vasishtha Smriti, like that. So Shruti Smriti Puranoktam.
Shruti Smriti Puranoktam. Okay.
Yes. Normally in the Sankalpa we have it.
Correct.
Whenever we are doing any puja in the Sankalpa, we take the Udaka, the water, and the Sankalpa we do and then release that water, right?
Right. Now, Prarambha of Sanskrita already happened. So, now we are talking about Vedic Kala, and as you said, Shruti. So, it was literally the the entire lineage of rishis who were already achieved souls, and Deva Avatar we call them. So they would visualize the mantra or stotra, and that's how they would chant it. They never had a manuscript or a written form of it, which like referring and chanting nowadays what we do. That's why it is called Shruti. So, what? When did we started documenting it?
Documenting started when mankind started he discovered the art of writing.
Okay.
So manuscripts, oldest manuscripts could be, we have a few like pictographs, rock edicts, the inscriptions, etc. In Brahmi Lipi, we have Ashoka's inscriptions right till Tamil Nadu. It was not only found in the northern and the eastern part of India, but in Tamil Nadu we have.
Yes.
And then way back in the Harappan Sanskriti, which we call Sindhu Saraswati Sanskriti, it is not just an Indus, it is Saraswati civilization, right? So whatever in the archaeological findings, whatever is dug out, whatever is excavated, in that also we have so many like kundas, we have some rathas. Recently, we have the ratha and the Rathakara. Then we have on the yoga day, they were displaying the Yogika Mudra and the Yoga Patta. And then there will be some small, like Ishtika Lekha. Ishtika Lekha is the brick manuscripts, something etched on the bricks. Okay.
Now, we also, as I just now mentioned, that the women who were involved into Shrutis and Vedic Patan were called Brahmavadini. So
Yes.
when we say Brahmavadini, is literally meaning those who have dedicated their life for study of Brahma Gyan.
No, no. It is
No,
not Brahma Sutra. Sutra comes
not
quite
Sutra,
late.
Brahma Gyan.
Brahma Jnana.
Ah,
Brahma, the word Brahma is very tricky. It's very mystical word.
yes.
It has multiple meanings.
Hmm,
Brahma could mean Veda.
hmm,
Okay, Brahma means Veda.
hmm,
Brahma means a Vedic mantra, a chant,
hmm.
incantation. That is also the meaning of Brahma.
Brahma.
Brahma is basically from derived from the root Briha, that is to grow. So whatever grows, enhances, that is Brahman. And knowledge is that which goes on expanding and enhancing. And therefore, any knowledge for that matter is Brahma. So Brahmavadini would be the female, the ladies, the women who are vouching for such a knowledge. So those who are instrumental in creating the knowledge content, the source, and enhancing it, developing it in their own way. So they could be Brahmavadini.
What mm, was the status of these women during Vedic Kal?
Yes, it was. In fact, we have two types of women folk. One who got married either before puberty or after puberty.
Okay.
It was not only Kanya Vivaha, it was
Hmm.
Praudha Vivaha as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
They are called Sadhyo Vadhu, who are like homemakers, housewives.
Hmm.
So that is one category. So they are, happy with their husband, children, the belongings, and all the mundane, empirical prosperity, so to say. And the other category is the knowledge seekers. They are called Brahmavadini.
Brahmavadini.
So Sadyovadhu and Brahmavadini. We have quite a few Brahmavadinis.
Yes.
In fact, we have quite a few, almost 27 to 30 Rishikas,
Huh.
the female seers of
Yes.
the Rigveda.
Yes. 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 Now, okay. Now, what I wanted to understand is we can always have very authentic discussion, but I want to relate it with today's period also. Now, somewhere we have lost that sanctity or the respect for the womanhood, and there is no respect in the society. I would not say by large, but to large extent, we have lost that sanctity. How was the existence of these Brahmavadinis and these Rishikas in the society? Were they at par with their male counterpart, or they were still a subordinate?
I would not say they were subordinate. In fact, we have a very, what you can say, Tejasvi Jnana Shalaka in the form of Gargi.
Yes.
Gargi. And in the Bradanyaka Upanishad, which is associated with the Yajurveda, we have philosophical conferences held by Janaka, the Mithiladhipati Janaka, and in his court, in that Sadas, in that assembly, sage Yajnavalkya comes, okay? And Janaka has already given a challenge. Whosoever wins the debate can take away the 100 or 1,000 cows whose horns are decorated with gold and they are having gold necklaces in their neck and all. So one who wins the debate can drive these cows to his ashram. Yajnavalkya, without waiting for a moment, he tells one of his students, disciples, hey, take those cows to our ashram. And there comes Gargi and she says, please answer my question before you take that. Because he has already defeated so many great scholars of his era and all male scholars, right? After that, Gargi comes. Gargi is the daughter of sage Vachaknu, and therefore she is called Gargi Vachaknavi. And he does not underestimate her, and he gives a very patient listening to whatever she asks.
Okay.
And she asked, how the cause and the effect relation, the Karya Karanavad, highly philosophical philosophical discussion. Kasminnu idam otancha protancha iti. And then he gives answer for that. Oh, in if that is the answer, in what that is being embedded, then further A, B, C, D, E, F, and then he becomes, like speechless. So she is the one who, tries to have a very hearty debate with him in front of all the other scholars, her male competitors, you can say. So she doesn't hesitate in asking him, and Yajnavalkya doesn't, undermine her scholarship, her intelligence.
And that is more important. Like it is a equal respect from the other scholar also. And yes, that is very important. Acha, Gargi did a Shastra Charcha, as you said, with Yagnavalkya.
Yes.
Was it not seen as a very, very bold step? Because if I want to argue, people say women shouldn't be talking so much.
It's all, the male domination which expects us to keep quiet. But when it is right, we should voice our own opinion.
I think this trend came in existence after the invaders started.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Otherwise, I think
that was just to protect our womanhood, That's why people, they confine them to the household. Char diwari mein bandh ke rakha, right? But that was like the need of the hour. Otherwise, there was khuleam looting and seducing and abducting the women and yeah,
very atrocious period, definitely.
Yeah.
So, Acharya, now that just now you mentioned a word called Chanda.
Chanda.
Huh.
Chandas is meter. Chandas is meter, and we normally in our what you can say regional languages, we know of poetries which are written, composed in Vasanta Tilakavritta, Shardula Vikridita, Malini, etc. Such chandas are not there in the Vedas.
Okay.
They are dependent on the Vedic chandas though. Okay. Vedic chandas are not on the ganas, but they are based on the aksharas. They are called Aksharavritta. For example, Gayatri, the very famous Gayatri mantra we all recite, or this one, Om Bhurvasva Tat Saviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimai Dhiya. It has 24 letters. Anushtup has like 32 letters, 8 letters per line. Gayatri has 8 letters per line, 3 lines. 8 3s are 24. Trishtubh has 11 letters per line, 4 lines, 11 4s are 44. Jagati has 48. So by 4 they increased because there are 4 quarters in a poem.
Right. So it is very much like a music, isn't it?
Yes, very much.
Very much like because we also have a matra, shruti, swara. In that, the whole thing should fit, and then you should go on the next line. That's how it is. So Ramayana is Anushtupa Chanda, right?
Ramayana is Anushtup. And that is, because Valmiki saw one day while he was going to Tamasa, he saw a hunter killing one of the birds which are perching on the branch of a tree. And that pathos generated poetry within him. So, Shokaha, Shlokatvam Agataha. Shoka, pathos turned into shloka, that's a verse. And that came out in Anushtup. And the entire Ramayana, the entire Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, for example, all are composed in Anushtup. That's the easiest, I should say, for composing any Sanskrit poetry. Even the Sanskrit students can try their hands on it.
I had a word with one of the scholar. She writes dramas in Sanskrit, and when I had a similar discussion with her, then also we had the similar thought that this is the most easy way to write. Yes. So let us talk about prominent for Brahmavadini.
Gargi, I already mentioned.
You already mentioned, yes.
I wanted to mention Maitreyi because Maitreyi is very favorite.
Okay.
Maitreyi is my favorite.
Your favorite. Okay. I have heard, I have put four here. I mean, you can tell more
Okay,
obviously. Gosha, Lopamudra, Gargi, and Maitri. Uh,
okay, great.
so, were there more than this, or this only four people have heard
No,
of?
there are more. There are more.
Okay.
Let us talk about these three now, remaining three, and then
Ah,
I'll mention some others who
please,
are there.
please, please,
Okay.
please. Yes.
So Maitri, she is Yajnavalkya's wife. Yajnavalkya had two wives. And here you get, the example of both Satyovadu and Brahmavadini.
Hmm.
Katyayani, one of the wives, she is a Satyovadu type. She is a pakka homemaker.
Oh my God.
Okay. She is a household lady.
Huh.
Now Yajnavalkya wanted to go and take renunciation or vanaprastha, go to Himalayas. So whatever property he had, he wanted to divide between the two. The entire Maitreyi Brahmana, it comes in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Okay. And and he calls both his wives and says, this is my property. So whatever you want, you can take it. And he has made two divisions. Katyayani is happy with whatever she gets. Maitreyi is the one who asks him, will I be immortal if I get all this? Kenaham amritasyam, will I become immortal amrita? And then he says, no. Nahi vittena tarpaniyo manushyaha. Vitta or money will not satisfy any human being. The more you have, the more you become greedy to acquire more, right? So Maitreyi said then, kimaham tena kurya. What will I do with that if I'm not going to be immortal? Give me that, yenaham amritasya. Give me that knowledge by which I will become, immortal. And then he gives her Brahma Vidya. So she is the true seeker of knowledge who is not satiated by any mundane offerings which are done to her. She has fixed her goal. She is, like single pointedness is there, ekagriya, chitta ekagriya, and she will not compromise on anything else but that. So that determination, it gives so many attributes of a womanhood. If a woman decides to do something, no matter what comes her way, she will acquire what she desires. So Maitreyi is the best example for that. She is the brand ambassador of the determination, intellectualism, and wisdom and whatnot, everything.
True. There is a very popular samvad between Maitri and Yajnavalkya.
Yes.
So could you please little bit?
From that only I gave you something.
Yes,
like, this is the basic, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad I have. This is from Ramakrishna Mission. This is with English translation and all that.
Okay.
And she says, Maitreyi, that I am not... Saha uvacha Maitreyi, yannu iyam bhagoho sarva prithvi vittena purnasyat. If the entire earth is filled with wealth, syamnu aham tena amrita aho, will I be immortal by then? He says, na iti uvacha Yajnavalkyaha. And then he says, amritatvasya tu na asha asti vittena. There is no hope for being immortal by vitta. And then she asks, yenaham na amritasyam, kimaham tena kuryam. What will I do with that if I'm not going to be immortal? And then he tells her, oh, no, I will give you tadeva vyakhyasyamin. I will tell her only that by which you will become immortal. And then there is a very good dialogue there. And then he says, Navare sarvasya kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati, atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati, atmavare drashtavyaha, shrotavyaha, mantavyaha, nididhyasitavyascha. So that atma you have to concentrate upon. Then he gives her that Brahmadhyana. That is the story. Very beautiful.
Wonderful, really wonderful. And this is a beautiful relationship also, because otherwise we rarely get to hear such kind of relationship of husband-wife, wherein there is
Yes.
a debate for not for wealth but for Gnan. So
See,
as you
here
said,
there is something which the wife wanted and
yes,
she got it from her husband.
yes,
Lopamudra is one such example.
yes. Okay.
Lopamudra also acquired whatever she wanted.
Huh.
Lopamudra basically, she is, according to the Mahabharata Vanaparva, she is the creation of Agastya.
Hmm.
In the Rigveda, this story doesn't come.
Hmm.
Okay, in the Mahabharata it comes. She is a creation of Agastya, and he took, her neck is like that of a swan, her eyes are that of deer, and like that from nature and the surroundings, he got one aspect and created her. She was exquisitely beautiful, and when all the charm from the natural creatures, birds and beings was embedded in her, they as if lost their charm, lopa mudra, and therefore she is called Lopamudra.
Oh,
That is the story in
beautiful.
Mahabharata. But in the Veda, she has two ruchas, only two mantras. In the first mandala, there is one sukta, 179 sukta. It is a dialogue in between Lopamudra and Agastya. Agastya is her husband. Okay. He created her and then he married her. That is the story in the Mahabharata. And after marrying her, she has discarded all her royal. She's brought up as a Rajakanya, as a princess, Vaidarbha Rajakanya. As it is, in the Sanskrit literature, Vaidarbhi beauty is very much appreciated. They are very beautiful. Vaidarbhi style, Kalidasa's, right? So she is exquisitely beautiful. And when she comes and follows the asceticism of Agastya, she leaves all that royal luxury there. And after marrying her, Agastya is engrossed in his own tapas. He is not looking at her at all. And then she reminds him what are his obligations as a grihastha. So these are the two verses on which the Western scholars have some different opinions. They are like sex education and this and that. That is their perspective. But this is a reminder to her husband what are his obligations as a grihastha. And then he gets a son from her. He is called Suhastya and all that. So that is the story. So this is again a beautiful thing. In Maitreyi Brahmana, she asked what she wanted. That was the Brahma Vidya. She wanted to be a sannyasi. She wanted to be a recluse. Here Lopamudra wants to be a housewife. She wants to be a mother. And her husband is neglecting her. So she reminds him that. And she gets what she wants.
Okay.
What about Lopamudra could another meaning, one who has forgotten lopa, adarshanam lopaha, says Panini. That is not seen. Her own mudra, her own, what you can say, personal wishes and desires, they all got, vanished when she married Agastya. Everything became invisible when she married Agastya. So that is also Lopamudra. She got absorbed in her own self. That is also one word can be interpreted variously. That is the beauty of Sanskrit.
Sanskrit, very true. What about Gosha?
Gosha. Gosha is Kakshivati. She is the daughter of a sage called Kakshivat. Kakshivat is a Vedic rishi. Rishi Darshana. He is a seer. One who has seen some Vedic suktas. And apparently, she is another lineage, from which lineage she comes from. That is important. She is the granddaughter of Dirghatama Auchatya. Dirghatama is a very famous poet. And in the first mandala, 164, he has written a beautiful sukta which is very puzzling called Asyavameya Sukta. That's very philosophical, very mystical. So she perhaps has the genes, in her. And she has composed, composed in the literal sense now for our convenience, we are using it. Yes. Yeah. So she has one sukta dedicated to Ashwina, Gosha, because it is said that she had some skin disease. perhaps something like leprosy,
Yes.
and therefore she could not get married.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
she was a spinster.
Mm.
And Ashwini Kumara, as we all know, they are the physicians of gods. So they cured her. They gave her Madhu Vidya. So this is some upasana. So Madhu Vidya she got from Ashwina, and they cured her. And then she got married, got a son, and was very happy. So that is the story for Ghosha.
Okay. Now, these four prominent ones which people are aware of, how many more such we
Yeah,
either
there
know
are,
or we don't
see,
know?
like similar to Ghosha, we have Romasha Apala. Apala is Atri's daughter, born in the Atri dynasty, Apala Atreyi. And she has a hymn in the 8th mandala towards Indra. Her story is similar to somewhat like Ghosha. She was married, but she was, discarded by her husband because she had too much of hairy body. Romasha. Roma is hair. So her body was quite hairy, and therefore, her husband did not want to cohabit with her, and therefore he sent her back to her father's house, and then she discovered that Soma plant. And that's because of that Soma plant, the juice of the Soma plant and all that, she got recovered. The story, of course, is not like that. Story says that once while going home, she got the Soma plant. She just chewed it. And Indra is a lover of Soma. So when he heard somebody is praising Soma, now these two jaws, it is like praising in the Ulu Kala Musala, the mortar and the pestle. So Soma is like pounded, then squeezed, and the juice is offered. So Indra hurriedly came there. Who is pressing Soma for me? And then he came across Apala, and Apala said, this is the Soma for you. The half-chewed Soma she offered to him. He was very pleased. And then he said, ask whatever you want. And she asked 3 boons, like Savitri asked 3 boons. She asked 3 boons, and one was her father was bald. So let hair grow on his head.
Okay.
Then his field was very barren. So let the vegetation grow. And third is, please make me sensuous, look sensuous and beautiful, and cure my body. Too much of hair and all. And it is said that he dragged her through the whole of a wheel. And then when she came out, she was like lustrous. And this is called Surya Snana. She became Surya Tvak. And this reference is there in the Surya Vivaha Sukta of the Rigveda and the Atharva Veda. In the 10th mandala of the Rigveda and the 14th Kanda of Atharva Veda, we have Surya Vivaha. And there this reference is there. And I may give you one relevance of that even today.
Sure.
We are not dragging anybody from the eye or a hole of a wheel and this thing. But there is, this is like a sun bath, lustration ceremony it is. So even I come from Karnataka. So in Karnataka, there is this custom that before, if the marriage is the next day, the previous day, the bride is given a ceremonious bath by all the ladies in the house. Okay, that's a ceremonious bath. And for that bath, they keep a golden ring over her head and pour water through that ring or bangle, whatever, gold. Because gold is sun's symbol. And this becomes a lustration ceremony for the bride. So that she becomes more covetable and enjoyable for her husband.
Wonderful. Now that we are talking, so let me take.
There is one more I can tell you. You are asking, are there more? So Vishwavara is there, Juhu is there. I would like to tell about Vaga Ambruni. She is the Vak, Ambruna Rishi's daughter, Vak. Vak is speech basically. Okay. So is the speech, which is an abstract notion, is personified in that. And she is like saying, Aham Rashtri Sangamani Janana. I am the gatherer of people. So very true. If there is no words, if there are no words, there is no speech. Now also we are talking. And then we can gather people. Otherwise, how can we gather people?
Very
if there
true.
are no words around.
Yes.
So she is the one. So she knows what potential she carries with her.
Hmm.
So very beautiful sutta, Bhagamruni Sutta.
Sangamali Sutta. So, Rigved, Samved, Atharvaved, and
Yajurved.
Yajurved. Um, that we say some hymns, some shlokas, some mantras, some stotras on a regular basis. We say Atharva Shirsha, we say Vishnu Puran, we chant all other mantras, but we don't know which belong to which particular Veda. So that is what we want you to give little brief explanation about all four Vedas.
So Rigveda is basically the Dhyana Kanda. Rigveda, Rucham Vedaha Rigvedaha. And Ruch is a praise of a deity.
Yeah.
And these deities in the Rigveda are basically the natural phenomena.
Huh.
They are basically the natural phenomena. And therefore we have all forms of fire, like the terrestrial fire, the atmospheric fire, that is the lightning, and the celestial fire, that is the sun. Now the sun is Surya or Savita or Bhaga or Varuna or Vishnu, Indra. These are different. There are 12 Adityas. They are all Aditi's sons. So one principle you take and you can carry it on all the three spheres. Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Swaha. So water, for example, you take water principle. Water could be the streams of rivers, and therefore there are Nadi Suktas. There is simply Aponaptriya Sukta or Apas Sukta, that is also there. Saraswati Nadi is especially glorified in the Rigveda. We don't have Ganga Yamuna there.
Yes,
We have Saraswati.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ganga is only once in 10th Mandala, 1075, which is a Nadi Sukta.
Yes.
But there are 3 dedicated Suktas for Saraswati. Prano Devi, Saraswati, Vajay Vajini Viti, etc. You know, and then the water from the Antariksha is the Parjanya. So Parjanya is a Devata. And then water, the celestial water, the Lord, the deity, overlord of that is Varuna or Indra. So the Suktas for them. So take one principle and you can find the some type of what you can say deification of that phenomenon in all 3 spheres. So that is the Rigvedic deities. Okay. So that is Rigveda, that is basically Jnana Kanda. Then we come to Yajurveda, which is a Karma Kanda. Yajush is a sacrificial formula.
Okay.
And Yajusham Vedaha, Yajurveda. So it's a sacrificial formula.
Okay.
So how to perform sacrifices and all. So whatever is given in that is called Yajurveda. Saman is, Saman is 90% Rigveda. There are only 75 mantras which are not found in the Rigveda. Otherwise, all the mantras in Samaveda are those which are there in the Rigveda. Okay? But they are not just recited, they are sung in Aroha and Avaroha. And therefore, ha, u. And therefore, interestingly, I give you one more reference. The Gandharvas, who are known for their singing, they are celestial bards, right? Gandharvas and Apsaras are celestial dancers. So their names are Ha and Hu.
Yes.
So Ha, Hu, they are the Alapas.
Yes.
So this is Samaveda. Okay, that is called Upasana Kanda. Rigveda is Jnana Kanda, Yajurveda is Karma Kanda, Samaveda is Upasana, because Bhakti and Upasana, they started from Samaveda. And Atharva Veda is Vyavahara Kanda, as you rightly pointed out. And Sayanacharya, who wrote a commentary on all the 4 Vedas, he also says that Vyakhyaya Veda Tritayam Amushmika Falapradam. I already composed the Vyakhya of 3 Vedas, which will give you a result in the Paraloka. Now I am going to do a Vyakhya of Atharva Veda, which is Aihika Amushmika Paladam.
In this,
here also you will get the reward of that, because there are so many medicinal herbs which are deified, and both the curative medicine, the preventive medicine, everything is there.
And also Atharva Veda covers the behavioral discipline patterns also?
Yes. Even the Rajakarma, it is
Rajakarma,
called
yes.
Kshatriya Veda. There are so many names for Atharva Veda. It is also called Kshatriya Veda.
Ah.
It is called Bhaishajya Veda because of the medicinal
Yes.
qualities.
Yes.
And its Upaveda is called Arthashastra, okay, which is the economy and polity,
Yes.
science of polity.
Yes.
And another Upaveda is called Vastu.
Vastu.
The architecture,
Architecture of
engineering
temples.
and architecture,
Yes.
not the Vastu shops which are opened in every nook and corner now. Not that Vastu,
Not that one.
but the Shala Nirmana, construction.
Yeah,
So
I think
engineering,
that is
basically.
what also tells about the architecture of the temples.
Yes, yes, that is one part.
One part. Yes.
Architecture of the temple is one part.
One part of it. But I think thank you is not a word, but we would like to spend more time with you and understand more information, wisdom. But maybe next time. So, धन्यवाद.
Thank you so much. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om.